What's going on, YouTubers, gamers and hobbyists out there? Welcome to this video response slash Topical Tuesday. And before we progress, I just want to say quickly, very quickly, what with all the horrible events that are happening in the world right now, you may think I'll be doing a video about that, but I'm not. I don't personally, and I feel it's a personal choice. I don't think that the channel is the right way to go about that. That said, that's not to say I won't in the future. Who knows? Suffice to say, I have already pledged and donated monetarily to a cause that helps victims from it, and you all know what I'm talking about here. So I'll just get that out of the way right now. Okay, so this is a video response slash Topical Tuesday to a YouTube channel called The Solo Wargaming Show. And he put up a video called "Is Patreon Ruining Our Hobby?" And it was a brilliant discussion. He laid his points out brilliantly. I felt it was a really in-depth conversation he was having. I didn't agree with everything he said, but we're all free to agree and disagree over certain points. For the most part, I agree with what he said, but I would like to address. He brought up 5 main areas to do with this. So 1, less videos. 2, more ads and sponsors. 3, less truthful. 4, more ego, fake. And 5, big distraction. And I'll explain what he meant by those as we get to it. But before we really get into it, I would like to give a huge shout out to the Solo Wargaming Show. I think it's a brilliant channel. I've been watching his stuff for years, off and on. I've dipped in and out over the years, but I really like his channel. I'll put a link to his channel up in the corner. Head on over there. Check out the video so you know what I'm talking about here. And yeah, also I'm using notes because, you know, those of you that don't know, I have a condition. It's called MS, part of which is a neurological condition, and to do a response like this would require notes. And those of you who've been following me and know my personal life recently, know how I feel about notes, particularly when it comes to job interviews. Anyway, so I've given a shout out to you, sir, so that's good. What I love about his channel is his honesty and the sheer scope of miniatures and games he covers, and he's been doing it for a long time, so he knows his stuff, he knows what he's talking about. And I love watching and hearing about his perspective of the hobby, having been in the hobby for so long. I really enjoy that, and like, as I say, I really did enjoy that video. I just want to ensure, hopefully we can all be like a mature audience when it comes to this. I mean, when it comes to things like Patreon and that, it can be a bit polarizing, or you know, you can attract negativity, and we really don't want that. I mean, to be honest, there's enough negativity in the world. We really don't need any more, do we? I think we're all adults. We can have a balanced, in-depth discourse. So why not get our thoughts across? So all opinions are my own, and obviously people are free to agree or disagree, which is their absolute right. So as I say, so the first point he brought up was there are less videos. And he says, and he's quite right in this, he says, just about everybody starts and or ends their videos with, "Support me on Patreon." And yes, I'm guilty of that too. That said, I don't put out any less videos. The only reason that causes me to put out less videos in life is when real life gets in the way, i.e. my work, my job. I mean, my job where I work now, I work for the police. It's very full on, it's very intense, it's long hours, it's, you know, and it's a lot. and it takes up a lot of my time. I don't get an awful lot of free time to do that now. Years ago I had more time on my hands, but I always make sure that I put the videos out. And I my Patreon system is set up with the gift of exclusive videos, and he mentions that as well. And I will also say that the Solo Wargaming Show, his views are pretty generalised. So a lot of what he says is a generalisation, or at least I hope it is. I think it is. I'm taking it as such, and that's how I'm addressing this. So I have a tier system on Patreon, starting from like $1 a month. I do it monthly. He talked about the way it's done, whether it's monthly or per video, with a cap if you want to do that. And yeah, so depending on what tier you subscribe to, depends on the access to what types of videos you gain access to. And I will also say that my Patreon videos have always been exclusive right from the get-go. It was no, oh, you get them for free now and then start charging. No, Patreon has always been charged for those videos. So I've always done that. And like I say, I am guilty of the, support me on Patreon. And at the end of this video, there will be a list of patrons who currently support me. And maybe I could cut back on mentioning it every video, or as near as damn it, right? Perhaps I do that too much. And okay, fair point, sir. Fair point. You yourself, you do give a pass on all you say when it comes to Ash Barker and Guerrilla Miniature Gaming, or Guerrilla Miniature Games as he called. And you know what? Fair play. That man puts out some serious content, dude. I mean, he's like a machine, really. He just churns out content, and it's good quality content. It is really good. He's certainly one of the more prolific content producers out there in our niche. So I'll give you that, so that's fair. So what are we on to now? To the second point you bring up, which was sponsorships and ads within your video. Now, I agree. This is very annoying when it's so obvious they only do it for like the freebies. I would like to say I myself have been approached by at least a dozen companies now to include these quick ads in my videos, and I'm like, clearly you haven't seen my channel. Have you seen how many views I get on average? I don't believe they watch my channel. Like, they'll give you an email and say, oh, we've noticed your channel has attracted notice, and you could be the type of channel which could be suitable for advertising our product. And no, I don't think so. I mean, some channels try to loosely connect the ads on their channels. Like, how many times have you seen them say something like, I played Dragon Force 2 or whatever, I'm just making this up now, or I love this farming simulation, farm sim or whatever. I tell you what, it's handy when I'm waiting at the bus stop and I just want to kill 5 minutes. I dig this out, and it goes into all this a little video, and then it'll come back. But you do, I mean, it is the ones that really annoy me are the ones where it'll come up with something like, like, say for instance, it could say it was me. I've been talking to you and having this discourse, and I'll do this. Oh, and I'll say, do you know what? I could do with a shave. Then it's like, use these razors, these Ultra Gillette super close cut razors, and it'll come up with an ad. And I was like, oh, yeah, I use them all the time. No, you don't. You just got some for free, and you are pushing them because you got a freebie out of it. I'm totally with you on that. Yes. Okay, let's move on then. We all hate those sponsorship things. I will say there are some channels that, well, I'll probably address this later when it comes to the sponsorship thing. I'll say it now as well, in case I've forgotten to write it down. I don't think I did. when it comes to advertising stuff and trying to push a product on you, there are some channels out there that are quite genuine. And rather than say, you know, I use this, and it comes up with an advert, they'll just say, oh, all the products I use in my videos, I've put a link to them down below. And for instance, I like a channel called Me, Myself and Die, which is a solo role-playing channel. And he says, you know, all the link, you can help me. He obviously got a Patreon, so he doesn't really push it like that. But he says, if you want to use, like I'm using this book to get my random tables from, if you want to get it, there's a link to it down below from Drive-Thru RPG. If you use that link, I get a little cut. You know, a little throwback, a little kickback from the company as a thank you. And you can do, you've got that. And it's there handy if you're thinking, oh yeah, I quite like what he uses there. And to be fair to him, some of the books he uses, he's used in lots and lots of videos. He uses them all the time, not just a one-off. Some channels you will see them mysteriously use a product and then never see it again because they're too busy promoting another product at that time. Okay, the third point you brought about was like less truthful. You talked about this is a good one. You talked about people only pushing the companies that give them free stuff. You know, nothing wrong with that, but I do agree there is a tendency for strong bias there. And this is where I mentioned Me, Myself and Die actually, because like I say, he only says there's a link in my description, so if you want to check out the products I use, you can. You did a great, explanation about the companies that pimp products for that, and you also said, now this is what really caught my eye. You did some good magazine examples of companies that you felt no one shouts out. Wargames Foundry springs to mind. and do you remember you said, when was the last time you heard someone shout out from Wargames Foundry? Never. Well, if you click on that link, you will see I have a channel called Take a Look. And it does shout out companies like that. Not just companies, shops, people, you know, even market stalls that are regular. But services. But yeah, I gave a shout out to Wargames Foundry about 6 years ago. I think it was December the 15th, 2016 or something like that. But anyway, if you click on the link, you will see my shout out for Wargames Foundry. So, but I get what you are saying. But the positive to come out of this really is that you've inspired me to do more pimp outs for the little guys, and I'll get back into that again. It just means I don't like to give a shout out to a company unless I've used them more than once. Whereas Wargames Foundry, you see, I've used them lots of times, and they provide a great service. I love their miniatures. I love their service. It's great. Which reminds me, I have a question for you as well about miniatures, but I might do that on a separate message to you. Right, I mean, another example. Here's an example of pimping products, right, and being truthful. Because you say, well, you were saying, like, yeah, people get these products and they say, oh, this new paint and it's brilliant. Now, even if it's crap, you know, they'll say it's good because they've been given a load of freebies. Okay. Years ago, I was approached by a company, a company in China. I forget the name. I think it began with a Z. Several years ago, they approached me to review some of their models, okay? And said, we're going to send you some, you know, we struck the deal. They sent me some free samples, provided I made a video and reviewed it for them. And someone at the time joked that I was making it into the big time. This all, funnily enough, this all happened after my studio here was built. But maybe that had something to do with it. However, I gave my honest opinion on them. I thought they were crap. They were crap. Incidentally, they've never asked me to do any more reviews for them again. On the other side of that coin, I did a review of the role-playing game Tales from the Loop, which Free League Publishing kindly sent to me. And I had to give the good review for that because it was a really good product. Really good product. My honest opinion, it's a really good starter set. Trash Terrain you talked about here. Fair play. I did a little bit. I haven't got any so much now, but I did tinker around with Trash Terrain. I did do that. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. Because like you say, trash is trash, right? Okay. I just found it fascinating. But at the end of the day, you're right. But you know the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure? I found it therapeutic to do it. I don't know. And it's okay, right? Because it's not like it's in my house or anything. It's out here in the studio. So if I make a mess out here, my wife, Mrs. Mini Warzone, she's not worried. Because she can't see it. I mean, it's not that messy at the moment. I've got loads of stuff everywhere, but that's not the same thing, I don't think. Okay, the fourth point you made, more ego, and people being fake. And yes, I agree with you. There are certainly egos out there, but I don't necessarily think that they correlate to being a Patreon cause. I just think that's the way certain people are. That's just the way they're wired. They lean more towards a narcissistic tendencies, some people. But I think you get that throughout life anyway, so I don't think it's Patreon specific, but I could be wrong. 5, the last point you raised, you called it big distraction. Because according to you, in your opinion, which is fine, you reckoned that about 90% of the videos out there are designed to get more patrons. Like I said, I think you're generalising, but a lot of this, but not all of it. But like I said before, my Patreon videos are exclusive, but they've always been that way. And I feel I put a lot of effort into my videos, not just Patreon. I mean, some people might look at my channel and go, well, he puts no effort into that. But for me, and for someone with my condition, it's a lot of effort, takes a lot of energy from me. If you go back to my early videos, you'll see that I'm just sat up on my bed, in my bedroom, because I was too ill to actually make the videos actually hobbying and gaming at the time. I was too poorly. That was, before I got onto a recognised treatment for my condition. So, but it all came together in the end. But it takes a lot of effort. Even to make a video like this, it takes me a lot of effort. It does. It tires me out. But I do the best I can. Or at least on my part, anyway. I think so. And I like to put as much effort into my Patreon videos as I do with my free content. And I'll call it free content just for the ease of distinguishing between the two. Which I feel is the right balance. You've got to have a balance, okay? And as a smaller channel, let's be honest, unless I tell you all about it, check out my Patreon if you've a mind. Let's be honest, no one's going to do it off their own back. No one, not one. I do not believe they will. And if you remember when Patreon first came out, everyone was almost like afraid to mention it because they didn't want to get on that hate train and get all that negativity pouring in. And that's just the way it was. But I think nowadays people are a little bit more desensitized to the whole Patreon thing. Really, it's just a way of tipping someone. I think years ago they had something called the tip jar for certain countries. You just tip them, and you could do similar things now with PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee and things like that. And Patreon is just another way, really, in my mind. Excuse me, and this is obviously subjective from my viewpoint. Patreon is just a way of tipping someone, saying, look, hey pal, you're doing a good job. You've got my support. Please keep making more videos. Which brings me on nicely to something else you brought up, which wasn't on like the numbered list, but you talked about accountability, and you were right there. There is none. Not that I can see anyway. But then I guess if you stop producing the goods, people will just stop giving. If you don't come up with that, people don't do what they say. Well, I have been able to upgrade my equipment. You say, and you're right, people do say it, oh, contribute to my Patreon and I'm going to use the funds to get better equipment, make better videos for you all, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard it. But over the years, I don't have a big Patreon thing, as you will see. I really don't. I've got, as at the time of recording, I've got 5 patrons, but I save that money back. I put it back to one side. There was a time, and I will say this now, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, years ago, I've used Patreon funds to buy food because I couldn't, I was struggling. I was really struggling, big time. But thankfully, we've pulled ourselves out of that hole. That's no longer the case. But over the years, okay, I have been able to upgrade my equipment. To name a few things, I've bought myself a green screen kit, which I use occasionally if I'm trying to be a bit more mobile with it, which was great. This microphone system that I'm using now, which is linked to my lapel mic there, which you can use as a microphone on its own. You can connect it to a hand or use it as a microphone that way, like if you're out on the street interviewing people, whatever. It's a fantastic bit of kit. One of the best things I bought for the channel, really, was the sound. I bought a few tripods for my cameras. I was able to get a second camera, which I wanted for 2 reasons, really. One, I wanted to get like 2 camera angles on certain videos, and 2, camera 1 was kind of, it seen a lot of action, thousands of clips, videos made on it. So let's just say they're very well used. Oh, and memory cards for them as well, because you keep on formatting and recording over them. After a while, they get a bit knackered out. So I've had to do that. Now, you mentioned on your video, towards the end of your video, or 3/4 of the way through, about an idea you had for Patreon, and you called it Pay It Forward Patreon. I think that's what you called it. And I recommend anybody go over to your video. It's quite a long video you put out, so it's about 42 minutes in. If you click on 42 minutes, anybody, you'll see where the Solo Wargaming Show talks about his idea for Pay It Forward Patreon. And I would rather people heard about it from you, as it's your idea, and you know what you're talking about with it. It's a very good idea. I do urge people to check that out, though, because it is, as I say, it's a very good idea. As for painting challenges, I do like to engage where I can with that, but one, I'm not a quick painter, and 2, one, I'm not a quick painter. 2, I don't like your 100 miniatures painting. That's great. You're painting 100 miniatures. But I don't have 100 miniatures just lying around ready to paint. I don't, and I wouldn't want to get through them that quickly. I like to enjoy the process, of painting. Just enjoy the process. But I do engage in painting challenges occasionally. More so if it's like a model, like one model or one figure. Do something like that. I run a painting challenge every year on Halloween, the Mini Warzone Halloween painting challenge. To my knowledge, no one's ever taken it up with me. So it's just a painting challenge to myself, but I enjoy doing it anyway. I like to do that. I know Warboss Tay does his painting challenges, and Mr. Riddick Beer, Necrons, 40k Necrons and more, he does painting challenges, and people follow those, and my hat's off to them. like with the War Boss Tay one, I just don't have the discipline to be able, all the time to be able to do like daily updates, things like that. And I know you don't have to, no one's holding a gun at your head to do that, but I feel if you're going to take part in that, then you really should put the effort in. Someone like JamJar34, his channel, he puts the effort in to do his updates. When he's doing a painting challenge, he really does it. And, you know, fair play to the man. You know, I just haven't the energy or the time to be able to do it. Things may change in the future, though. And, you know, for everybody else out there who's watching this, keep an eye out on my channel. There are going to be some changes in the future. Keep an eye out. So, to conclude, do I think Patreon is ruining our hobby? No. Do I think Patreon is ruining or has ruined certain channels in the hobby? Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I do. I think it has. All I can say is Patreon does help me to run my channel. As I say, I did buy food with Patreon once, and yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was in that hole, but it helped me. It did. It helped me, and so now, like I say, I'm in a much better place financially. I'm getting more stable. This last year, I've really put a lot of effort in. I mean, a year ago, I was stacking shelves and picking orders in a supermarket. Now I'm working for the police in a well-paid job, working from home. The luxury of working from home, and there's other things on the horizon too. I put myself through a lot of courses to be able to do that. But anyway, my Patreon is about helping me make better videos. I think it is. All I have to offer is time, and that's the most precious thing to me. So I feel the content's worth it. I do. At the end of the day, though, I'm not forcing anybody to pay me Patreon or become a patron, but if they want to, it's very, very gratefully appreciated and very well received. Thank you. What I can say with absolute certainty that it is probably the most appreciated thing I have in the YouTube community. As I say, names will appear at the end of my video. I just want to say what you didn't touch on your video, primarily because it's not the topic, but I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on other paywalls that exist in channels and brands that have them, such as Mini Wargaming on Tabletop, formerly Beasts of War, and the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy. I'd love to hear what you think about that sort of thing as well. So, like, for someone like me, a small YouTube channel, Patreon is the nearest thing I can ever get to that sort of thing. Although I would like to put up T-shirts and mugs and things like that. If people want to buy them, it's up to them. Then, you know, it's you see the product. I can perhaps use the product or wear the product to say, look, this is what it looks like, or here's the mug. You've seen me use mugs before, but I haven't got a shop on there as yet. But I know people do that, and, you know, fair play. I'd like to finish by saying I really enjoyed the discussion you raised about this topic, and I've really enjoyed putting together this video for the response and the topic itself. I'd like to invite anyone else out there to respond if they want to do so, and doing this, at least it helps us to focus on something other than all the other horrible stuff that's going on in the world right now. I think we need that kind of distraction at least, because we're all adults. We know what's going on. We don't need to do any more with it. We don't need to wash ourselves in the misery of it. We know what's going on. And we're all doing our bit, right, to help where we can. As I say, I've given a donation to Red Cross, which is one of the charities which are helping victims of the war and Yeah, it's such a sad thing. But to you all, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you. Stay safe. Peace.